Okay. Thank you for coming today. I'm attorney Gloria Allred. With me is Summer Zervos. Standing behind me are my law partners, Michael Morocco and Nathan Goldberg. I'll be making a statement, then Ms. Zervos will be making a statement, then we'll take some questions. We will then provide you with copies of the lawsuit and also the case number that was filed today. Okay, could you move over a bit, please? Thank you for the suggestion. Okay. Okay. Today we are here to announce that this morning we filed a defamation lawsuit on behalf of our client, Summer Zervos, against President-elect Donald Trump. The lawsuit alleges that Ms. Zervos had been subjected to unwanted sexual touching by Donald Trump and that she had told family and friends about the incidents not long after these incidents occurred. She did not go public or take any action against Mr. Trump at that time, however, because she decided that Mr. Trump's behavior had either been an aberration, a test, or that he may even have regretted or been ashamed of his behavior. The lawsuit alleges the following. In October 2016, that all changed. And this is a quote. What I'm reading now is a quote from the lawsuit, all of it. On October 7th, when Trump's own recorded crude and vulgar comments to Billy Bush on the Access Hollywood tapes recorded in 2005 were broadcast, it became clear that Mr. Trump's sexually inappropriate behavior towards Ms. Zervos was entirely consistent with Trump's own words, and that his belief that he had the right to sexually assault women, and even to boast about it. Then at the October 9th presidential debate, Mr. Trump told the world a bold-faced lie. He stated in response to a direct question from Anderson Cooper that he had not ever done any of the things that he had bragged about to Billy Bush. End quote. Ms. Summer further alleges in the lawsuit, quote, for the first time, Summer Zervos saw Trump's behavior towards her for what it was, that of a sexual predator who had preyed on her and other women. She realized that she was just one of many women who had been victimized by Mr. Trump's predatory conduct. Ms. Zervos could no longer rationalize or excuse Mr. Trump's behavior by telling herself that his behavior had been a mistake or an isolated incident for which he might even be ashamed. Mr. Trump had no shame. His own boasting to Billy Bush made clear that his behavior was intentional. Ms. Zervos knew that Donald Trump had lied to the country and to the world, and knew that the statements he made to Billy Bush were not just words or locker room talk, but were evidence of his pattern of misconduct towards women. Ms. Zervos felt a responsibility to inform the public of the true facts. It was unacceptable to stand by and allow a presidential candidate to lie openly, with impunity, to the American public. She came forward, as a number of other Trump victims did, to inform the public of the facts that she knew were true, to make clear that Donald Trump had kissed and groped her without her consent repeatedly. End quote. The lawsuit goes on to allege, quote, and what did Donald Trump, the liar and misogynist, do to cover up his lies? He lied again and debased and denigrated Ms. Zervos with false statements about her. Trump immediately lied, saying that he, quote, never met Ms. Zervos at a hotel or greeted her inappropriately, end quote. And we're still quoting from the lawsuit. He quickly went further, describing Ms. Zervos' experience, along with those of others, as, quote, made up events that never happened, end quote. Quote, 100% fabricated and made up charges, end quote. Quote, totally false, end quote. Quote, totally phony stories, 100% made up by women, many already proven false, end quote. Quote, made up stories and lies, end quote. Quote, totally made up nonsense, end quote. He falsely stated, quote, every woman lied when they came forward to hurt my campaign, total fabrication, the events never happened, end quote. During the last presidential debate, he stated that these women were either being put forward by the Clinton campaign or were motivated to come forward by getting, quote, 10 minutes of fame, end quote, and nothing more, end quote. Ms. Zervos alleges in her lawsuit, quote, but it was Donald Trump who was lying when he falsely denied his predatory misconduct with Summer Zervos and derided her for perpetrating a, quote, hoax, end quote, and making up a, quote, phony story to get attention, end quote. The lawsuit sets forth the impact that these events had on Ms. Zervos. The lawsuit alleges as follows, quote, in doing so, he used his national and international bully pulpit to make false, factual statements to denigrate and verbally attack Ms. Zervos and the other women who publicly reported his sexual assaults in October 2016. Mr. Trump knew that his false, disparaging statements would be heard and read by people around the world, and that these women, including Summer Zervos, would be subjected to threats of violence, economic harm, and reputational damage. In his effort to win the presidency and counter the damage to his election prospects based on his own recorded words with Billy Bush, Trump knowingly, intentionally, and maliciously threw each and every one of these women under the bus with conscious disregard of the impact that his repeatedly calling them liars would have upon their lives and their reputation, end quote. Quote, his statements are plainly defamatory and caused serious harm, end quote. Quote, this lawsuit seeks to make Donald Trump accountable for the significant damage that he has caused Ms. Zervos, a woman who had the fortitude and the courage to come forward and speak truth to power so that the nation would be informed about the true Donald Trump, end quote. Enough is enough. Truth matters. Women matter. Those who allege that they were victims of sexual misconduct or sexual assault by Mr. Trump matter. Prior to filing this lawsuit today, Ms. Zervos volunteered to take a polygraph examination regarding her allegations of Mr. Trump's sexually inappropriate conduct towards her. The lie detector test was administered by a very experienced and recognized polygrapher. She passed the lie detector test. The polygraph examiner concluded that she was telling the truth. Because truth matters, prior to filing this lawsuit, on November 11, 2016, at a news conference with Ms. Zervos, I called on then President-elect Donald Trump to retract his statements that the accusers are, quote, liars, end quote, and that their allegations are, quote, fabrications, end quote, and, quote, fiction, end quote. I said then that retraction would undo some of the damage that Mr. Trump has inflicted on his accusers. Over 2 months have passed since I challenged Mr. Trump to retract, but he has failed to issue a retraction. Ms. Zervos is now left with only one option, that is to file a lawsuit against Mr. Trump. Even now, however, Ms. Zervos is willing to dismiss her lawsuit if he will retract his false statements about her and acknowledge that what Summer alleged about Mr. Trump's sexually inappropriate conduct towards her is and was the truth. We fully expect that Mr. Trump will use every means at his disposal to try to delay this case and avoid having to give his testimony under oath in a deposition in this case and before a jury in a court of law. We believe that the justice system will provide Ms. Zervos the opportunity to litigate her case, even though she is suing the most powerful individual on this planet. That is the essence and the beauty of our system of justice. No one is above the law, including the president-elect, soon to be president of the United States. In the syllabus to the United States Supreme Court case of Clinton versus Jones, some people call it Jones versus Clinton, but it's officially Clinton versus Jones, the Supreme Court, the reporter of decision stated that, quote, "The court explained that the president, like other officials, is subject to the same laws that apply to all citizens, that no case had been found in which an official was granted immunity from suit for his unofficial acts, and that the rationale for official immunity is inapposite, where only personal, private conduct by a president is at issue," end quote. Therefore, in order to obtain justice and allow the truth to be determined, we believe that it's necessary for Mr. Trump to answer Ms. Zervos' allegations in a court of law, rather than in his bedroom by tweeting in the middle of the night. Summer is very brave to have brought this lawsuit. She knows that she will be attacked by Mr. Trump and his supporters and defenders, but she is willing to endure and suffer unwarranted attacks against her in order to vindicate her rights. We applaud her courage and hope that millions of people will support her in her journey to justice. And after Summer makes her statement, I will give you the case number and where it was filed, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Today, I filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump for defamation. On November 11, 2016, I called on Mr. Trump to retract his statements about me, calling me a liar. I also called upon him to state that what I said about his behavior towards me was true. More than 2 months have gone by, and he has not issued that retraction. I wanted to give Mr. Trump the opportunity to retract his false statements about me and the other women who came forward. Since Mr. Trump has not issued a retraction, as I requested, he has therefore left me with no alternative other than to sue him in order to vindicate my reputation. I want Mr. Trump to know that I will still be willing to dismiss my case against him immediately for no monetary compensation if he would simply retract his false and defamatory statements about me and acknowledge that I told the truth about him.
Okay, the case number, this is filed in New York. And the index number is 150522-2017. And this case was filed this morning, so we have confirmation of that from the court that it was filed. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Gloria, the threshold...
And she's not going to be answering any questions, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
The threshold, as you know, for this president-elect, for facts and truth-telling seems to be a little higher or lower, depending on how you look at it. Is it naive to think that somehow this will result in him coming out and making some sort of admission for culpability? I think that's what people want to know. In other words, what are you trying to accomplish with this?
I'll repeat the question. Essentially, please correct me if I'm not saying it accurately, is do we expect Mr. Trump, President-elect Trump, to take responsibility? And what do we expect as a result of the filing of this lawsuit? Everyone has to take responsibility for their actions, whether the person is President-elect, President of the United States, or anyone else. And so we expect that his lawyers will do what they think is best for their client. I expect them to attempt to dismiss this case, delay this case, do whatever they think they need to do to represent Mr. Trump vigorously. Yeah, I would like to be mistaken and instead have the president-elect decide that he's going to do the right thing in reference to Ms. Zervos. As she indicated, if he will simply retract and acknowledge his conduct with Ms. Zervos, she will dismiss the lawsuit, not seeking any damages, nor will she seek attorney's fees. That's all that it will take.
What impact could this have on his presidency, though? I mean,
What impact will it have on his presidency is the question. That depends on what his reaction is to the filing of this lawsuit. In the event that we are able to take his deposition under oath, of course, he will have the responsibility to testify truthfully. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I will have that expectation that he will testify truthfully. If he does not, there are always serious consequences in the legal system for those who do not testify truthfully under oath. And my guess is there will be those in the political system who will be interested in his testimony and whether or not he testifies truthfully under oath. The lawsuit against then President Clinton had consequences for him. This lawsuit will have consequences potentially for then President Trump. And it's really up to him as to what those consequences will be, whether they will be positive or negative. That depends on him, not us. Yes?
Ms. Zervos was a contestant on The Apprentice. Would there be an opportunity with this lawsuit to get at some of The Apprentice footage, which is never shown on the air? That's obviously something people have been very interested in.
Nancy Dillon from the New York Daily News is asking, would we potentially have the opportunity, as we litigate this lawsuit against then President Trump, to potentially subpoena the outtakes of Mr. Trump's recorded words on The Apprentice, given that Ms. Zervos was formerly a candidate on The Apprentice? The answer is, we would certainly seek any and all information and documents, recordings, etc., which may be relevant to the litigation of our lawsuit. So we'll have to see what the reaction of Mr. Trump's attorneys will be to that. I could speculate on what that will be, but on the other hand, so can you. And we'll see what NBC decides, if, as, and when they are served with a subpoena to take them. Yes, sir.
Can you speak to the timing on this, 3 days before the swearing in? How does this go down time-wise? Did you try to present a settlement option at some point? Is this something that you're putting out there this week and for some purpose, this week, 3 days before?
The question is, why now? And have there been any settlement talks with his attorneys? I have not had any contact nor any communication from or to Mr. Trump's attorneys at all. It is my educated guess, they're certainly aware of the news conference 2 months ago wherein I urged Mr. Trump, then President-elect Trump, to issue a retraction. Since then, there has been complete silence from them. I have not attempted to contact them. They're certainly aware of it. They know where I am. So the answer is she's done her best. Had he issued the retraction that I called for, we would not be here today. We've given him 2 months. Time is up. Although he could still do it, even though we filed the lawsuit. Why now? My answer would be, why not now?
Have there been threats against Ms. Zervos since going public?
Question is, have there been threats against Ms. Zervos? I will just say that for all of the accusers that I have spoken to, some of whom I represent, some of whom I don't, but I will not be naming those, because that'll be attorney-client confidential communication. They received a significant amount of pushback and very, in some cases, derogatory and hurtful and, in some cases, threatening types of statements from certain people who either didn't wish to be identified or did identify themselves, and some of whom were obviously defenders of Mr. Trump. And so that's why I say it takes a great deal of courage to sue the most powerful man on the planet. But I always say that women have more strength and courage to fight for justice than sometimes even they have recognized that they have. And so that's why why now, why not now?
Yeah,
There's no good time, there's no bad time, but we have waited 2 months, and time is up.
To follow up on that, there's going to be some people that say this is just a dog and pony show a few days before the inauguration to try and detract from a historic election. What would you say to them?
Well, I don't know why it would detract. It's just another step. I mean, this was in Mr. Trump's hands. This lawsuit did not need to be filed. We've been very patient, and didn't have to happen. It was really up to him.
But you're assuming that he knows about this. You have no confirmation, correct?
I have every reason to believe that his team would be aware of the news conference, which was covered, in which I said this 2 months ago.
there's no confirmation.
Well, I have not been in contact with his attorneys, but it appears to me, again, an educated guess, that Mr. Trump has a great deal of interest in what I say publicly, because in the past, he's actually commented and tweeted about me and spoken about me on a radio show and elsewhere in reference to the issue of bringing forward accusers. So, and that was within a very short time, matter of days, in which and in fact in a matter of hours, of, one of my press conferences about accusers. In fact, even before I had the press conference, after I sent out an announcement. But so, it's my educated guess. I'm not in direct communication with Mr. Trump. Don't think I should be in direct communication with him because he is represented by attorneys, nor should he be in direct communication with our client since she's represented by attorneys.
Before lawsuits, don't lawyers usually talk to each other?
Not necessarily.
But you said you haven't tried reaching out to his attorneys.
As I said, question is, have I tried reaching out to his attorneys? Okay. We have actually done more in reference to Mr. Trump and being patient than we have done in many other lawsuits. I don't remember the last time where I publicly called on one potential defendant to retract. So I think that's enough. I think they understand. But he can still do it now, in case he didn't know before, in case he wasn't following the public press conferences. It's not too late for him. He can even do it today if he would like to. And then he can go on to his inauguration.
How have you weighted that the consequences for Ms. Zervos are more positive in suing than in not suing? You're putting her in the limelight.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't understand the question. Is the question, have we talked to or communicated with Ms. Zervos about the consequences of filing a lawsuit? Is that your question?
About how have you weighted that the consequences of this lawsuit will be more positive for her than negative?
Have we decided that the consequences of the lawsuit would be more positive than negative? Okay, thank you for your question. Ms. Zervos has decided that she wishes to proceed. She's fully informed about the benefits and the risks of filing a lawsuit. She's thought about it, and we're proceeding.
What are those benefits and risks?
We're not going to comment today on what those benefits and risks are, but certainly Ms. Zervos is aware of them, and she wants to vindicate her rights and her reputation.
Can you say again the specific charge in the lawsuit and what are the legal consequences of that charge?
What are the
legal consequences of defamation?
The legal consequences? We have to prove our case, and then we need to prove damages. But the real issue for us is proving our case.
Have you spoken with any of the other women who have accused the president-elect of participating in the lawsuit?
Have I spoken with any of the other women? The rest
Have
of
you spoken with any of the other women who have accused the president-elect about participating in this lawsuit?
Have I spoken with any other women who have made accusations against President-elect Trump about participating in this lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay, my answer is any accuser to whom I have spoken, if they have spoken with me, that would be attorney-client privileged communication, and so that would be confidential, and therefore I cannot disclose what they have said to me or what I have said to them. But thank you for your question.
Ms.
Yes.
Allred, can you clarify how Ms. Zervos met with
Mr. Trump in 2007 when this first occurred?
Well, the question is, may I clarify, would I please clarify the circumstances under which Ms. Zervos met Mr. Trump? I cannot comment on that at this time. That will be part of the evidence in this lawsuit. So I'm sorry, I cannot comment at this time.
Why is there no claim for sexual assault?
Why
in
is,
the lawsuit?
why is there no claim for sexual assault? Well, this is the claim that we believe that we should be making at this time. I can't comment on why we have not asserted any other claims, but this is a claim that we are asserting the defamation at this time.
Could that change in
Determine
the
what you
future?
might see.
Pardon me?
Could it change in the future?
I doubt it. I doubt if it will change in the future. But this is the claim.
Have you determined what you might be seeking in damages?
It is in the lawsuit, what we are seeking for damages. It's minimal, it's jurisdictional. In other words, it's an amount that we are asserting. But it's minimal what we're asserting because what we really want is to prove that defamation has taken place.
What is that amount?
Well, I'm going to give you a copy of the lawsuit. We also have a claim for emotional distress in the lawsuit.
If Donald Trump admitted or took back his comments saying that everything was a lie, would that then open him up to a sexual assault lawsuit? Because he's practically saying what you're saying is true.
The question is, if in fact he retracted, if in fact he was willing to assert that what Ms. Zervos alleges that he did was true, if he would agree with that, would we then potentially sue him for sexual assault? No. We would release all claims.
And in the American system, could such a lawsuit be a motive for impeachment?
Question of impeachment has been posed to me. And what was the first part?
In the American system, can such a lawsuit be a motive for an impeachment?
Could the lawsuit lead to impeachment? Well, certainly in reference to President Clinton, there was a lawsuit, Paula Jones versus Clinton, in which she alleged that she had been sexually harassed by President Clinton when he was Governor Clinton and governor of the state of Arkansas, and when she was an employee of the state of Arkansas. At some point, President Clinton did testify under oath. At some point, the Congress decided to impeach him and he was, however, not convicted. So, if President Trump decides not to testify truthfully under oath in this case, should he be required to provide his deposition and/or testify at trial, then I think Congress will have a very important decision to make. And that, of course, if that would happen in the next 2 years, we know we have a Republican Congress, controlled Congress. Obviously, the Democrats also in the Congress, but they're in the minority. They would have a decision to make. Of course, they were very supportive of, that is, some Republicans were very supportive of the impeachment of President Clinton. I would hope that they would put partisanship aside and do the right thing, apply the same standard to President Trump as was applied to President Clinton. Again, I'm not assuming that Mr. Trump, President-elect Trump, will do anything but tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, under oath in a deposition. But we'll have to wait and see what he does. Yes. Anyone hasn't had a question, and I'll go back to somebody who already asked. Okay.
I just like to take one more shot at that.
Okay.
And that is, as opposed to say filing this next week after the swearing and doing it today, 3 days before the swearing, is there some strategy behind that? Is there some thought of the attention it would get in light of the swearing in?
Is there a strategy behind filing today as opposed to next week or perhaps last week or, I don't know, a couple months ago? Today's the day. It's time to face the consequences. We didn't have to give him the opportunity to retract. We did. He didn't do it. You know, women are not a footnote to history. They matter. We value them. We value our daughters. We value our sisters. We value our mothers. We value our grandmothers and our aunts. And we value women. And we value women who allege that they have been the victims of injustice, either because they've been sexually assaulted or raped or in some way treated unfairly by anyone. This is the time to proceed.
Are you worried about the case dragging on like Paula Jones did?
Am I worried about the case dragging on in the way that the case of Paula Jones versus President Clinton dragged on? Well, I'm not worried about it because this is the nature of a lawsuit, any lawsuit. As a court once said, that lawsuits sometimes move at a glacial pace, very slowly. Although with global warming, that may be a little more quickly than one used to think it would be. But having said that, I'm not worried about it. There's going to be a great deal of litigation to do as this case is litigated. Again, I would fully expect that Mr. Trump's attorneys, President-elect Trump's attorneys, are probably going to fight this with everything they have. And they have a lot in terms of financial resources to fight it with. We're ready. We've been doing David and Goliath, this case, maybe it's Davida and Goliath cases for 40 years. You know, we're the leading women's rights private law firm in the nation, and we're going to give it everything that it deserves to have and more. We're going to fight this fight. We're going to fight this battle because it's the right cause. And Ms. Zervos is the right person to fight for. Okay, I'll take one or two questions more, and then we'll just give out the lawsuits, and we're done.
Can it be your last case suing the President of the United States?
Will this be my last case? I certainly hope not. Is something you know that I don't know? Okay. No, it's, you know, we've been fighting rich and famous and powerful people for all these years since our law firm was formed. I also want to give credit, we're going to be co-counseling in New York. I am licensed in New York, with our wonderful co-counsel there, Marianne Wang, whose name will be on the lawsuit that you'll receive in a few minutes, and with her wonderful firm. So, yes.
I just wanted to ask on the point of David and Goliath, is there any litigation funding involved on those sides?
Is there any litigation?
Is there any private litigation funder?
Is there any private litigation funding of this lawsuit? At this time, no. That is nothing we've received at this time. But if people do want to support this case, they can, you know, contact my office, and we will certainly provide information to them in reference to how they can support this case. And no, the Clinton campaign has not been in contact with me, nor have I been in contact with the campaign, nor have I been in contact with Secretary Hillary Rodham Clinton about this case. Anything else? That's it? Yes, Nancy?
There were two locations tied to this instance. There was the Trump Tower and then the Beverly Hills Hotel. Is there a reason that you chose New York to file? Was that because it was first, or are there other reasons?
The question is, why did we choose New York to file this lawsuit? The question also includes that the allegation is of incidents with Mr. Trump in New York, but then in addition at the Beverly Hills Hotel here in California, so why did we choose New York? We just decided that this case should be filed in New York. After all, Mr. Trump is a resident of New York. 2 incidents alleged happened in New York City. And we believe that was the appropriate case to file in New York. That's why we chose New York. Okay. Thank you so much. And Patty will give out, someone will give out copies of the lawsuits. And in the event that you need it emailed to you, Patty will take your card and she will go up and email it to you, in addition to your receiving a copy. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, last thing. Summer and I will be in Washington for the March on Washington on Saturday. So we welcome others.
I'm sorry, Gloria, I missed it.
Yeah, the March on Washington, the Women's March on Washington, will be taking place on Saturday in Washington, D.C. Summer and I will both be there. I also expect that some of the other accusers will be marching with us. I'm not, at this time, revealing the names, but they will be there with us. Thank you so much. Okay. Has the statute of limitations expired? In reference to this lawsuit, no. Oh, I'm sorry. For those who, thank you. For those who would like something in Spanish, one of our wonderful associates is here, and he will be happy to read in Spanish something about why we filed this lawsuit. So thank you very much. So Kirby? So we'll go up, but Kirby, you can just sit there, and then he'll do that.
Where you sit?
You can sit right there. Thank you. Give your name and the... Thank you so much.